Jessie Rosen, thank you so much for being on the Woo Report. So happy to have you.
I am so happy to be here. And as we said when we popped on, we have a lot of connections. So there's something woo underneath the woo of this Woo Report, if you will.
Yes, we were meant to be here today, right now, in this moment, talking about this book. Your book, All the Signs, is so good. I'm a huge reader. I always have a book. Classically right now, it's been the spicy fantasy genre, which I'm not sure if you've gotten into, but a lot of spiritual themes in those books too.
That is a surprise, but I love knowing that.
It is sacred smut, and go listen to episode 23 if you want to hear more about that. But I really loved your book so much, and I felt like it mirrored so many things that I was going through. I opened the first page of the book, and I knew I was going to love it because it's an Ace of Base quote.
I know. I'm so happy to hear that because, well, two things. First of all, there used to be two quotes. There used to be something, I won't say heavy, but like something serious, something literary, something from an important poem. And then the Ace of Base thing. And I was like trying to be the two sides of myself. I was like, I'm such an intellectual. Don't worry. This is a researched book. But also it was like very business in the front, party in the back. And then to be very honest with you, we couldn't clear the piece of the poem that I wanted legally.
Wow.
So I had this choice, which was like, is it just going to be this Ace of Base quote? How could I possibly? And then I was like, yes. I want people to understand when they step into this book that there are going to be some heavy moments, but we're on like a fun ride and I've got you. And like, I am you. And so I thought that was a way to kind of signal to the audience. And I love nothing more than that that's something that people are connecting to.
So the quote is, no one's going to drag you up to get into the life where you belong.
Yes.
How many times have I sang that lyric and never thought about what it meant? No one's going to drag you up.
No, not to correct you, but it's no one's going to drag you up to get into the light where you belong. And I feel like that's actually even more important because don't even worry about the life. Forget about the details. It's not going to be about that. It's going to be about the feeling, and it's going to be about the warmth. It's going to be about the excitement. So I even love it more. And I'm with you. Like the other lines are the lines that we sing. But it's funny, right? Because that line has always been an earworm in my head. So it wasn't a reach. I wasn't like, well, I should pick an I saw the sign lyric. It was like has always been very top of mind for me. So I love it.
I love that word, like an earworm in your head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like how many of us have those just circling?
Well, you kind of wonder like, why that? Right? Like, and I think about that in terms of everything. Why that memory? Why that movie? Why that book? Why that person? I feel like they're like, no pun intended or no connection intended, but like they're the little light posts that's like this wants you to look at it. So I think there's a bit of woo in that too. I'm trying to create a tone with these books that is this mix of light and dark, fun adventure, armchair travel, total candy, total delight, but like buckle up for that delight because there are going to be some things that challenge you and I hope move you and really make you think. So it's something I'm playing with and I think always have been in all of my writing. And I felt like this was a way to signal it with that quote.
How much of this book did you take from your own experience? Like, did you go searching for your star twins?
Yeah, I did. I went searching for my star twins. A lot of this book, without being autofiction, which is a true category of fiction in which you lived the path, you lived the journey, and you're adding some fictional elements. That was not my situation. The parents in the story are nothing like my parents. My upbringing was nothing like this upbringing. My goals were not her goals. My personality is not her personality. But I went through this weird time in kind of like my late 30s, and that makes so much sense, whether it's astrologically predicted or not. I just went through this weird time, connected to my career, connected to kind of my confusion around whether I was on the right path for me. And in that moment, because of my curiosity about astrology, my existing curiosity about astrology, which comes from a little bit of a woo story that I can also tell.
Oh, yes,
I was
please.
like, how can I figure this out? Like, scientifically, actually is a place, or like science-based thinking is a place that my brain goes because my brain wants certainty. So without being a scientist, my heroine in this book is a doctor. I am nothing like that. But my brain likes an experiment because it likes certainty and it likes to have affirmation from like math or whatever you can get from it. And so, yeah, I looked for my star twins and I found some people and I had some fascinating conversations. And around this same time, connected to this time, a little bit off that time, I had sold a first book. And I had the opportunity to write a second book connected to my contract for the first book. So I needed to like flow right into a new idea. And like here this fiction version even felt like I could have a deeper, richer experience with it. So yes, like the foundation of it was very much from something I really did. And the kind of story behind the story of my curiosity with astrology is also this wild woo thing that happened to me. I was born in Los Angeles, and then very quickly my parents decided to raise me where my mom is from, in a small, lovely town in New Jersey. So immediately I moved to New Jersey, but this lore around like, I'm from Los Angeles, I'm born in LA, my parents had these lovely foundational friendships in LA. I had always wondered if I should get back there in some capacity. So around my 27th birthday, I made the decision to move back to LA, but it was actually in advance of my birthday. So the very first birthday I celebrated back in the place of my birth, I shoot out of bed. It's still dark out. I look at the clock and it's the exact time I was born, 5:15 in the morning.
Woo! Your Saturn return, just like returning.
Yes,
I love it.
In like a force. And I was living 3-4 blocks from the hospital where I was born. So it was like, I was like essentially like, if we're going to talk like the astrology and the map and the verticals and the degrees, I was like sitting on the place of my birth and hear this thing happen. Before that, I didn't have any reference to astrology. None. But you tell that story to anyone in Los Angeles and 100% of them will tell you to go see an astrologer. So that's how it started.
Wow.
But that's, you know, I'm now 41, but I was almost 40 when I wrote the book. So that's 27 years old. That's so long ago.
It is.
To like start this path of this curiosity with astrology and this curiosity with like, am I as my birth chart dictates? And what does it mean where I'm not? And how did that happen? So the central thrust of the book and that journey is something I had been thinking about for a really long time because of that totally woo thing.
So you went to an astrologer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And was the astrologer that you went to as direct as the one in the book? Because
No.
Okay, I was like, so I just feel like I have to talk about this for a second because I think it's so interesting when you start talking about spiritual concepts or like things that are unseen, or, you know, obviously the planets are out there, but there's this unseen energy that they're pushing and pulling us, right? Yeah. People often, and I speak for myself, like I did this for the majority of my life, like just roll my eyes at it. I'm just like, totally. What is this thing? So the delivery, I feel like, of any sort of like spiritual information it will land differently depending on like how it is given. And interestingly, in the book, the astrologer, the mystic, is kind of like direct and like, well, you're not living in alignment. You're not living in your alignment. And oftentimes now that I'm on this journey, sometimes I think that in my head about people who are like in a negative spiral or they're doing something and I'm like, but I'm not equipped to deliver information.
No. And like, frankly, nor necessarily is the character in my story on purpose. Like I wanted this individual who is called Nova, who is crafted in the image of my dear friend Paul, with love and with permission. Yes. A person who is in the mystical space and is in the astrological space and has like these enchanting eyes, just like my character Nova has. I wanted that character to be pushy. I wanted him to bump. I wanted the skeptics reading this book to be like, yeah, see, no. Because I wanted the journey for people to change their minds, maybe, or at least open their minds to kind of like be challenging along the way. That was not my experience. I saw a lovely woman who could not have been, she was like Daryl Hannah in Splash. She was like this stunning, tall, statuesque goddess of a woman who had such a tender approach with my chart. I didn't even know what a chart was, first of all. So she had this lovely approach and very gently highlighted some things about me and pointed to some areas where I may struggle, except she kind of like had this one hysterical moment that I've never forgotten, where at one point I said like, oh, my fiance, because at the time I guess I was engaged, whatever, maybe my boyfriend. But no, it must have been fiance, because she said, oh, you're getting married. And I was like, what? And it was the only kind of like forceful moment where she said something about like what she saw in my chart versus how I was living that made me question. And I laugh about it to this day because it was such a kind of, that's what can happen in these moments where like these people kind of throw you off and send you down a path. And I will tell you, I thought long and hard about even the concept of marriage after that because of her suggestion. And I think I decided to be a married person with stronger conviction because of that. So I think about that a lot, right? These people who kind of come into our lives and suggest these things that may not be right, but even the suggestion raises a question that allows us to affirm who we really are. So I kind of loved that about her.
Yeah, we're all just affecting each other.
Yeah.
In the book, Leah's life is upended after like a bout with vertigo.
Yeah.
And so I love this because I feel like it mirrors times in our lives when we are kind of cracked open or, you know, we start to be cracked open. Sometimes the cracks are small, sometimes the cracks are big. For me, I got run over by a car. My crack was very big. Yes. But I also think like vertigo can be big too. It had to stop her in her tracks. It had to totally shift what her plan was, even at the moment, even if it's just for that moment. Like she had to stop working because she had this bout of vertigo. Have you had a crack open moment like this? Is this something that happened to you? Like, what made you choose vertigo? Like,
one of these moments hasn't happened to me, but they are my great fascination. Like one of my number one fascinations with life is people who arrive at these transition moments that they don't choose. And I'll say that even though like there may be something going on very differently. I'm really fascinated by that, especially people who would otherwise never have gotten off the train tracks that they were very comfortably riding. I think there's something so beautiful about the power of the human spirit that can overcome. But what does that look like, right? And I'm really fascinated by those stories. And while I have had mini versions of them many times. And I would say that they've been kind of like big choices about my career life, but more than that, they've kind of been like juncture points about, am I going to accept this piece of myself? Am I going to be brave about this way that I have to behave differently in the world? Am I going to seek the help of someone with a lens bigger than my own? Like, and that can be as simple as like, I'm going through a hard time in advance of my wedding. Am I going to get into therapy? And that can be as broad as kind of like, something's weird about my health. Am I going to stop and take care of myself? And am I going to look at that and listen to that? Or am I going to bowl over it like so many other things? So that was really broadly, I wanted to have a conversation about why and how we change to become more like our true selves. But how do those change moments even occur to us? And a lot of the time, I think in duress. You know, and so I don't think this character would have gotten there a different way. And I think those are the people that I'm looking to talk to and be in conversation with this book. And maybe like with everything I ever write, I don't know. There are people who are destined to always find their way to themselves, and it may take them a minute, but they're going to get there. They need like a nudge. They don't need a push. And I'm kind of more interested in the people that need a big push.
Well, I'll speak for myself. I definitely had a big push.
Yes. Right. And like, we also don't want to say that tragedy is always welcome because it can be transformational. It's not, you know.
Right.
Big things can happen that are not welcome. And I feel like that's a different story.
Another interesting theme in the book is about being kicked back into alignment.
Yeah.
The idea of alignment is such an interesting concept. Like, my best friend Sarah goes to a chiropractor, for example, once a month, right? Yeah. The chiropractor is physically like pushing her into alignment. She feels better after she goes there. What does it mean to you to live in alignment?
It's such a big question. And I feel like we're all always navigating. This is a wild comparison, but like I went through a process where it was time for me to let my body be the size that it wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And even that felt like an alignment. Mm-hmm. Like this kind of like, I don't know that we can ever touch because of influence, because of culture, upbringing, the world around us, factors huge and tiny, exactly the purest part of ourselves, right? Like, I don't know what that full pure alignment means, but I do think we all have kind of a version of ourselves that feels and is most right for us. And I don't know how to define that. I don't know where it comes from. I know when I've felt it creatively. I know when I felt it in relationships. I know when I felt it in like blissful moments of conversation where you're like, I am saying something so true to me that it feels correct. Like, it's kind of the only way I can explain it, but I think that it is so multi-pronged. And I think it is everything from, am I living in the right place? Am I living with the right people? Am I taking care of my body in the right way? Am I pursuing the right work? Like, it is so many things that are so hard to hit 100% of the time. Mm. And the world doesn't make it so that we can easily seek out and follow our vocations with stability financially. So sometimes we're always just a little bit in flux. And I think my life has just been about like, how many factors can I control to get comfortable in the way that my intuition and my insides are telling me like, yes. Mm-hmm. And like even that is a wild thing to have to search for, which is a big piece of what my character is searching for. Like, she does not believe that it's as simple as following the dictates of her astrology, but she comes to start to have these gut feelings. Like, what is a gut feeling? What an insane thing to have to define for yourself and then keep finding throughout your life because of the million choices we have to make. So it's like such a long-winded way of saying like, I don't know, but I have some certainty around the fact that it exists. Alignment exists.
Oh, for sure. I feel like what I hear when you say all of that is I hear it's choosing self-love.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is what happens in like our hero's journey too, within the book, because she's learning that it's okay. And you can tell me if you want me to take this out too. I'm like, am I going to spoil the book? But like,
no, it's okay.
She's like learning that it's okay that her mom is making her own choices.
Yes.
Or choices to better herself. It's okay to put yourself first, because by putting yourself first, by kicking yourself into alignment, you're going to kick everybody else into alignment.
I know. And if that kind of choosing and that kind of loving of self first and choosing the path that's best for you first isn't the big struggle of my life, I don't know what is.
Oh, we're all in it. I think that's everyone's struggle. I mean, like, and maybe I could be wrong. I'm sure there's some of us that are like, I love me and I am good. But it's like, you just saying like, I'm going to love myself at this size, like right now.
Yeah.
And just how good that felt. I agree with you that we're always kind of like veering off and veering on, because every choice that we make is energetic. The Woo Report to me feels aligned to me, but there are many other decisions that happen around the Woo Report. Yeah. Am I looking at the numbers too much? Yeah. Am I like caring too much about that? Like, even when you are on the path, you're still navigating.
Yeah.
You know, do I love myself enough that it doesn't matter what the numbers are? Like,
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think for Leah and for me too, the presence of other people in the mix. I'm so glad you brought up the mom. And for listeners, the mom character is a big challenge to Leah in this story. She's a person who has not been very present in her life for many reasons that we uncover and I hope like really wrestle with. It's really been interesting to talk to women, especially about how they feel about the mom character in the beginning and how they feel about the mom character in the end. And for me too, I kind of always intended to have that dynamic to the parents in Leah's life, where the father is the structure, the father is the steady, and he is who raised her and has been there, and she is living in his image as a result. And the mom is the opposite. It's not something we see as often in culture, though it certainly exists. But it was like pressing a bruise, I think, of a conversation about women and the choices of women and the choices of mothers that I was like, that is a deep, dark hole, and I'm going to go dive into it. And
I did that.
And I still feel the book is done, the book is out, people are reacting. It's still a piece of a creative puzzle that I'll always be thinking about. Did I serve it enough? Did I serve Leah? Did I serve the mom? Like, I'll always be thinking about that just because I think it is so fraught.
But by just diving into it allows people to then reflect on it, like you did do it justice.
Yeah.
All the travel, like all of the details involved in the travel. So did you go to Venice?
I went to Venice. I have been to all of the places in the book. And one of the reasons so far that I have written places that I have traveled is because it's so fun. It is one of the really fun and delicious aspects of writing when writing can be not that fun. And so when you pick the places you've been, you get to like re-immerse yourself and like return to those places in your head. It's really delightful. So that's one of the reasons I do it. The other reason is because I have a reference to pull from to make them, I hope, as like rich and 3D as they can be. I went back to Venice though, originally, and this is like a language you may speak or listeners may speak, but I'll bring it up lightly because I didn't end up going down this path. There was going to be an element of this book that dealt with astrocartography. Which is the relationship, which is the relationship.
I'm familiar, yes, but to tell everyone, yes.
It's essentially the relationship between astrology and Earth, which is like, okay, the planets are above us, the constellations are above us, but what cities are they impacting, and how does that, if a city could have a birth chart or a city could have a chart because of the planets above it, blah, blah, blah. And Venice, Italy, really lights up as a city for Leos, and I am a Leo. I am actually exactly the same birth chart as my character, which is another choice I made just to like deepen my relationship with understanding who she was. And so she was going to go there for that reason. Once I decided that was a bridge too far with the astrology of the book, I still wanted her to go to Venice. And I went as part of a big trip that kind of went wrong in a lot of ways. I had a really like disastrous trip to Italy before arriving in Venice. I fell off a bike. I got 7 stitches. I got head lice. I had a sinus infection. It was like thing after thing after thing. And then when I got to Venice, it all kind of lifted. And I had this really, really magical time. And a lot of what I had thought I would include in the book and write about, like my plot, my outline going in, I just discovered all this different stuff when I was there. And all this stuff kind of like, I think came about because I let myself wander and be free and have some time to like let things kind of come to me when I was there. There's a storyline in the book connected to the Peggy Guggenheim Museum, which is in Venice, which was not my plan at all. I went to the museum just for fun, and then I took a tour because it was happening when I walked in, and I learned things on that tour that really changed a key piece of the puzzle of her journey at that time. So, I mean, there's so much woo to travel no matter what, and I do think I'm trying to kind of also convince people that they should travel as much as possible with my books.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's so good because like every piece of what you just said, it's like you were just pulled to like where you needed to be at the time. So in the book, the character goes on a retreat.
Yeah.
So retreats are obviously very big in like, I feel like spiritual culture. I think they're huge right now. Like you're going to go on a retreat, you're going to get a sound bath, you're going to like
totally
shift your life in all these amazing ways. So have you been on retreats? Do you go on them?
Yeah. I've been on a bunch of retreats. I went to Boston College, which is one of the ways that we connected.
Yes. Shout out Justin and Mike Hutchin.
Justin and Mike. Retreats are a key component of Boston College. I had never been on a retreat before, but there are retreats at Boston College that are organized around times of your college experience. There's a retreat that's called 48 Hours, and it happens at the end of your sophomore year. There's a retreat that's called Halftime that happens halfway through. There's like all these retreats that are meant to help you reflect and think. And that's very much in the spirit of Jesuits, who are the Boston College, the denomination that leads BC. But as an adult, I've also done a lot of retreating. I've organized writers' retreats. I've taken myself on retreat. And it was a retreat led by a life coach, not dissimilar from the coach that I, kind of envisioned in the story, where I had a really foundational experience that kind of informed this book. And there are only 2 scenes in the book. Yeah, two that actually happened exactly as they were written. And one of them happens in Turkey when my character goes to see the whirling dervishes, which is an experience, a totally beautiful experience I had. I just wrote exactly what I saw. But the other is a meditation that happens to the character when she's in Venice. And the character sees something very specific and confusing to her in this meditation where she's asked to envision something. And what the character sees is exactly what I saw in an experience like that way. And it really threw me when I saw it too. And so I wanted to use that because it threw me in a way that led to some kind of like breakthrough for me. And I thought I can't write something that would feel, as honest as that did.
So do you meditate? Is that something that you do on the regular?
I do it like in phases. I feel like this is the wrong way to approach meditation. I'll just confess, but I'm like,
totally fine.
It's better than nothing.
This is a safe space.
Yeah, right. It's better than nothing, but like I'll use meditation when I need it and when I'm struggling, specifically when I'm struggling with focus and when I'm struggling with like feeling like I'm every day, all day moving faster than I want to move. And it's so interesting. The speed at which I move is something that I've worked on in therapy for a long time because I didn't have enough hang time or quiet space to listen to myself because I was always moving so quickly. And so I use meditation as a way to slow myself down. And I usually very simply use Insight Timer. And there are a few meditations on there that are part of the free service by Tara Brach, who's a lovely meditation teacher who I just really like, and I like the sound of her voice. So when I use it in that way. I kind of push my character to do more of a visualization meditation, which I've also done. I pretty recently, I went on a retreat once again, and this was a retreat for creative individuals without kids. So it was a really interesting kind of like focused time with a specific set of women. And we did this retreat that was about envisioning future self. And I don't think I'd ever done that before. And it was so interesting because this like future version of myself, and I envisioned this kind of like 60-plus-year-old woman, if not a little bit older, was so clear to me. And it was so interesting that had happened. And yeah, so I find that when I do it, I actually have access. Yeah. And that it is I can kind of grasp it quickly, even if it is confusing to me. So I think what I'm saying is that's why I've learned to trust it, is because it comes easily and it feels natural. So I tend to think that those things mean you should pay attention to it.
I love how the book is also kind of an astrology 101. Like if you don't know anything about astrology, you're like, here's what your sun sign means. Here's what your rising sign means. Here's what your moon sign means. And like how they all work together.
And it was one of the hardest parts to like make that user friendly, for someone who knew absolutely nothing. I just remember working with my editor and just like less. Like, how can you distill this to the simplest explanation? Because you have to have this, I include the concept of transits in the book, but like this stuff has got to flow over the reader or they are going to get totally distracted. So that was a really hard thing because I have more of a language around it. So it, rolls off my tongue easier. And I'm so happy to hear that it felt 101 and not 201.
Well, it felt 101. I feel like I've been trying to dive into it for a little bit. When I say dive in, I mean that very loosely. It's just been on my radar now for a long time, and I'm like, yep, Saturn's in Aries, and we are gonna like roll with that. And
okay, that's some specific stuff. What are your big 3? Do you know them?
Yes, a Scorpio, Scorpio Sun, Libra Rising, and Taurus Moon.
Nice. That's some powerful
So what does that mean?
Energy.
Are you like an astrology reader? Tell me.
No, I know a bit. I'm married to a Scorpio, so I know a bit about Scorpios who I feel like get a bad rap in the astrological
we totally do
world, even though I think that's wrong. And it makes so much sense that you, a Scorpio, there's a lot of things that make sense about the path that you're on now with that, just because I think one of the things that they say about Scorpios, which is so wonderful, a wonderful way to be, is that they are not afraid to walk into a dark, scary place and then do whatever it takes to find their way out, and usually take people with them. Like, come on, I'll bore a hole through this cave and I'll get us out. I'm not afraid. I can handle it. And I think that's so interesting because I feel like that's
I love that. Thank you for saying that. I really love that.
That's a bit of what you're doing right now.
That's how I do feel that way. I feel that way in like the best way. Like that makes me feel really good. Thank you for saying that. Yes. Yeah, it's funny because it's just so dense. Like astrology is just dense. There's so much going on, and like every planet means something different, and then it's moving all the time.
Yeah, and you can kind of get really involved or very lightly involved. And I think one of the things I was trying to say with the book, and especially in terms of, without giving anything away, like where I decided to end it, in terms of my character's feelings about astrology, I was trying to kind of say, this is a modality. This is a tool. This is like reading, this is self-help book. This is you going on a retreat. This is you deciding to see an energy healer. This is you committing to a weekly conversation with your friend. There are all these modalities that I think help us ask ourselves questions. And I think, like, even more importantly, get us in conversation with ourselves about ourselves. And I guess I just never, I live in Los Angeles. I do what I do as a writer. I didn't realize the degree to which some people aren't in conversation with themselves about themselves. Yeah. They're not looking at those things. They're not asking those questions. Either it's like a hot stove they don't want to touch, or it's just not a familiarity. It's not the way that people talk to them about that stuff growing up. Their friend group isn't doing it. So it's so interesting because on book tour, I really heard from a lot of people that in a really loving way were like, I've never thought these thoughts. I never went down this path. I never considered these things. And I'm reminded of how lucky I feel to have built a community of people in my life that have been, sources of that for me, and like a place to feel really safe talking about that stuff.
It's so interesting because I obviously lived in LA for a really long time. And I had like I had that experience. I had the opposite experience where like I was not thinking about myself at all because I was so concerned with the hustle.
Yeah.
That was my life in production there. Yeah. And it was how I was performing and what success I was having at work. And that really was the only thing driving me. And I think that's why I needed a big wake up call, because my mind was turbulent. There was no space, like what you were saying, how meditation, I love that too, because I do the same thing to slow down. I'm like, what do they say now? They say, slow down to speed up.
Yeah.
Reading all the signs, it was very much a mirror of like my own little spiritual awakening. Like,
oh, I love that.
In like the most beautiful way. Like, she has an oak tree in a creek, which is like, I have a relationship with my oak tree in the back.
Yes.
Like, we are like full blown. That's where I sit when I meditate. And the oak tree is just mentioned one time, but for me, I was like, this is literally my backyard.
I love that. Those points of connection, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
What people pick up, some things I like plant so hard in the book, and I'm like, I really hope people see this.
Yeah.
And some things are just like, that is what's natural to me. And then it makes a connection with someone and it deepens their relationship with it, which is what's so magical about, releasing work and, putting work out in the world for people to then, it becomes yours, and I think that's such something I'm discovering about stepping into novel writing versus TV and film writing, is just that I think there's readers of books have a little bit of a deeper relationship with like picking up the thing that immerses them into the world in the book and starts to really be like, I'm in this book. This book is, that I'm having that relationship with the book. So I'm always so happy.
That is what this is why spicy fantasy novels are like a whole thing. It is immersive experience that is world building. The immersion is everything. And if you can start to see yourself in a character, then you're like, You've hooked them. You're doing something right.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing you always worry about when you're creating characters.
Of course.
It's like, is she likable? Is she relatable? Are people going to buy her journey? That's the really hard part. And I think for this one, this is my second book, and I do think I'm so happy with the ways that I let myself kind of be braver in the creation, specifically of a character that had some edges to her, had some rough edges. I think that was harder for me because I always want to have these like light, fluffy, relatable, frankly, like these Nora Ephron characters. Mm-hmm. And then you remember that like Nora Ephron gave us Sally from When Harry Met Sally, and she was a mess, right? Like high maintenance, who thinks she's low maintenance, and also some other really stunning, tough characters. So I'm reminded that those are the women that I want to follow and I want to watch. And so it took a little bit more bravery this time to put that kind of person on the page and trust that like a woman reader was going to find herself.
You're into astrology, and this book is called All the Signs. So tell me about your spiritual belief system.
I come from a Roman Catholic mother and a very religiously Jewish father in his upbringing, but not in his current practice. My parents chose to raise us for the first 10 years of my life Unitarian Universalist.
What does that mean?
Right. So it's this like very accepting. It's almost like, gosh, it's like as close to non-denominational as it gets, because it is not a Christian religion. So it is not, you talk about God as a spirit and God as a being and God as an energy, but there is not one God, Allah, Christ, or that kind of storyline about like the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, which is what you learn in Catholicism. So it was this very like, I'm going to use the word hippie, but like that's what it was where we were in New Jersey, this like much more open, accepting kind of religion. And then very interestingly, my mom went through a health scare, and she kind of really felt a pull back to the church, and my sisters and I were converted to Catholicism. So that's so interesting, because I had this like, okay, I have this foundation of kind of everything, and God is energy and it's above, and it's hard to even create a visual for him or her or them or what. And then this very like clear, ancient lines drawn religion. And, it was confusing to me. And I think that I had always, whether it's because of my foundation or because of my person, I had always felt more connected to the former. I'd always felt more connected to kind of this like very broad thing. And especially when it came to, I think the way for me, any organized religion kind of gatekeeps the concepts of the real goodness of spirituality. If there is a heaven, there are rules to get in, as one example. So I didn't really attach to that concept. I did go to Boston College, a Jesuit Catholic place, and spirituality was very different there, though there was absolutely, especially when it came to some of the tenets of the school, which was something that was being fought at the time. There was like a lot of like classic Catholic rules. And then when I left that, I just kind of went back to this concept of very much paving my own way and believing that there is something much bigger than us going on there. I don't know how that pertains to the concept of an afterlife. I love the idea that there could be. I'm not creating a balance sheet for my life to get in, so to speak. But I'll say, like, after this long ramble, I don't know if you can be a writer and not have a connection to spirituality, because over and over and over again, wild inspiration comes in the form of answers, ideas, lines of dialogue, characters, the whole project as a concept. And I don't know where that comes from. And when it happens, I am always like so in awe and in delight. And I have this like, I've recently been saying, I feel like I'm forever chasing whatever that is. That moment where I am like given from somewhere far outside of me a piece of a puzzle of a step of my creative life. And I can't believe it when it happens.
Oh, that's
and I love
so
it.
Cool.
I love it so much that I think I'm very like, that's why I do this, is because that is the goodness of that feels like, now it feels kind of like selfish. Like that relationship is like, I'm just chasing that great feeling.
The feeling of flow, like the feeling of like, this is exactly what I'm meant to be, the feeling of alignment.
Well, and maybe that is what it is. Like, I don't know. I know enough to know the ideas aren't, it's not that they're not coming from the inside out. Obviously, like, I have a brain, my brain generates thoughts from thoughts I've had, things I've read, people I've met, blah, 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 blah. It's not, there's something more going on. That's all I know, is that there's just something more at play, because I'll tell you, when I have tried to like force my brain to come up with the answer, and when I've tried to kind of like push it out in this like tense way, it doesn't happen like that. So I don't know, but I'm starting to kind of like play a little bit more in energy work overall. And I have someone that I see for energy work, and it's been like a new kind of frontier for me. I would say energy work and a energy practitioner, I wouldn't even just call it exclusively Reiki, but I'll say like that is an arena that I'm newly stepping into and very curious about.
Reiki means like life force energy or something moving through.
Yeah. And the idea that like you could have stuck energy. The idea that a practitioner with experience moving energy can move energy. You know, the idea that our energy exists outside of us, and that we, the way that we are has an influence in the room, whether we're saying anything or not. I think a lot about that because there are a bunch of little people in my life now, nieces and nephews under 5 years old. And I've been thinking so much about my energy and what I'm emitting without saying anything, and like what they're these like little beings that are so receptive, like what they're picking up. I don't know, there's something to it. I'm like, this is now getting like as woo as I currently get.
You can like feel the tension in the room, right?
Yes.
You can cut the tension with a knife, right?
Yes.
That is not a woo phrase. That's like,
No.
people say that.
No.
But what is the tension that you're feeling if no one's saying anything? Like,
I know.
People are emitting whatever is going on and if it's tension, it's probably just like ramped up turbulence of negative thoughts and going out. And yeah, you're right. Like, I feel like kids are they're just like open until they are like conditioned almost to close.
Yeah. Well, and are you like this too? I feel like you must be. Like, I didn't really ever understand. I'll use my very sweet husband as an example. He has an easier time flowing in and out of spaces without like becoming a sponge to the energy of other people. So I would have like a really awkward experience and a lot of tension at like a given dinner, let's say. And just like almost like I can't explain it other than to say like one of the individuals at dinner was like emitting a stench. Like I don't know, like it was so clear to me that this person was like, something was off, and it was like in my area, and it was like feeling so weird to me. And then I would get in the car with my husband afterwards and be like, didn't you feel like such a weird, and he would be like, no. And I used to think like I'm a crazy person. And, you know, I will say like through the energy practitioners that I've come to met, I'm just like, oh no, I'm a porous person. You know, I'm a person that like for the construct of my energy and the way that my barriers can be permeated if I don't hold firm to them, like that's just how I am. And what a relief to be like, oh no, could be a superpower. And at the very least, it's something I certainly can't blame myself about. So I think that's a really cool, like the broad concept of who am I? What am I going to do about it? Like acceptance, self-love, and then kind of like, okay, well, how can I use
you can read energy, baby. Yes.
And like use it to my benefit, and like, and then like maybe be a piece of an energetic puzzle of a room that is, you know, inviting good energy. So I'm figuring that out. Book 3.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, one thing that you said, not to always bring it back to romantasy, but one thing that you just said was that you were like scenting it, and scenting like arousal. That's a good one. Yes. In romantasy, scenting fear, like using a sense that you wouldn't normally, use to tap into emotion, but using it in that way, because again, like something that was unseen and you're not able to explain it because it's not in the vernacular of our society. No. Are you familiar with human design?
I am.
What are you?
I don't know. I don't know. All I know is I have a friend who practices. This is like your one number, right? It's like I'm a 2. I'm a no. It's not that. Okay.
It's different, but it's interesting because, I think so many things are charted from your birth chart, but it's also charted from like your birth chart, the time of day, and the place. When you said the scenting part, like your spidey sense, which is mapped in your chart, and mine is my sense of smell. It's like it's also discernment. It's like being able to sniff things out, like kind of like a more than one meaning of like what it is to.
So interesting.
It's so much permission to feel into what feels good to me. It's kind of like a hack.
Yes. But like, isn't that the goal? Or these like shortcuts to intuition? Like, it's, and what does that mean? I tried to kind of paint a couple pictures of the way that one might tap into that in the book, because sometimes I feel like it's actually ends up being more practical than we think. Like for me, a path to intuition is actually the page. It's really hard for me. I can this is a weird way to put it. I can like lie to myself in the air, but I can't lie to myself on a piece of paper. And it's so, I'm like an on and off journaler. And so when I'm going through a hard time, when I come to a piece of paper, and I don't think that's just because I'm a writer, there's some kind of relationship with like, it's in my head and now I'm going to take a writing utensil and write this down. And then I'm going to look at it and I'm going to know it's not true. Like that, it's a bridge too far for me. So that's like another modality that has become a shortcut for me into, beyond intuition, but like intuition is really just like, what's the truth? And I find it so interesting when there's like a topic that I'm not willing to journal about. I'm just like, nope, I'm not ready.
Oh yeah. Isn't that telling? For sure. There's so much out there in the spiritual community about how journaling is such an incredible way to release, to help you with chronic pain. I don't know if you're familiar with like Mind Your Body, that book, Mind Your Body. It's like journal speak. It's like you just like let it rip on the page. And if you really are honest, if you really look at yourself and like own what you've been thinking and you're honest with yourself, it will help cure you of chronic pain.
Yes.
Like it's wild, but there's story after story after story after story of it happening for people and working for people in a way where like, oh my God, you've just been holding on to this stuff that you don't want to look at.
Yes. I did a thing with my therapist. This is like going back a while, but I struggle with kind of like anger and expressing anger and frustration. And I'm, very much like oldest daughter, raised in the 90s, like good girl. And so we established this thing that was called Mean Mondays. And on Monday, I would sit with my journal in the morning and just be mean on the page. And like, it was like really like, it wasn't that I was being mean. It was that I was being expressive. Like I made the word mean. And then it was so funny because when we talked about it together, it was kind of like, was that mean? Or was that an expression of true frustration, expression of anger, an expression of righteous, whatever, like justice, like all these things that like I had called them mean. But I had to set time. I had to set real time to allow for that and to kind of let that move through my body, through my hand on the page. So it was super powerful for me. Mean
I love
Mondays.
that so much. Mean Mondays.
TM.
I'm going to give it a try.
Yeah.
I'm like, what day is it? Not Monday, but it's coming up. I love what you said about finding ways to get back to your intuition, because that is what the Woo Report is all about. That is what every episode is about. It's like, how are we finding our way back to ourselves? And we can use all these modalities. We can use astrology. We can use spicy fantasy if you want to do that. You can read a book, dive into someone else's story and see yourself, see it mirroring yourself.
You have those moments where it's like, oh my God, I know that was a sign from such and such. Like I like to allow for that.
Yes.
the older I get, the more I'm just kind of like, yeah, why not? Why not?
For
and
sure.
Why not like believe because of the joy that brings us here today? You know, like it doesn't really matter. You know, you get to kind of
let it be a
experience
gift.
Yeah,
Yes.
let it be a gift. Obviously, All the Signs is about this like big mystical belief system. My first book is about superstition, which you might also say is like a big mystical belief system. So there's something about these systems that I really like to explore and write about. And I don't exactly know what's next for me book-wise. I'm starting to dabble in something, but you know, a part of me, this is like a big area of fascination. So we'll see.
I love it. Well, I mean, it's called All the Signs. And have you read the book Signs?
No.
Oh.
Have to. I know. You're like the 10th person that's recommended it. So
Oh.
I know I got to put it on my, I know it keeps coming up and I'm like, this is a sign to read the book Signs. When we landed on the title for the book, which feels like such a perfect way to close, right? It kind of felt like I was trying to navigate toward this idea of signs being external and internal. And if that isn't like really the thesis statement of what I am so proud and excited that you're doing here, I feel like that's it. It's like, what are the external signs and what are the internal signs? And when they line up, okay, we're on to something.
We are in alignment. We are in alignment. I love
We did it. Done.
Jessie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is so
a total
fun.
pleasure.
So fun to chat.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. For way more woo-woo, please follow and subscribe to the Woo Report podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you love to listen. Never miss an episode of the Woo Report by joining the community at thewooreportpodcast.com. Thank you for liking, sharing, rating, and loving on this little slice of magic. I am so, so grateful you are here. Bye.